Hello and welcome to Get a Shift On, podcast all about career change and career transition. This week, I'm delighted to welcome Tess Lovely from Birth Within. Tess, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much for having me on. I've never done a
No,
podcast, so I'm a bit of a virgin at this, but
that's
we'll
all right.
we'll we'll plough along and see how it all comes out in the end.
It will be all fine, I'm sure. Now, for everyone listening, I'd like you to explain who you are, where you come from, and how you get to be where you are today. And I know that word virgin is going to come up again, so please do share your story with us.
Thank you. So I'm Tess Lovely, and I am a mother of 5 children and a grandmother of 5 little girls. I became a midwife following when I was pregnant with my second baby. I had ovarian cancer. And it was a very controlled, challenging pregnancy. The birth itself was quite beautiful, but there were still elements around that. And my mum was really poorly at the time, and I chose not to have chemotherapy, which was quite controversial back then. And I took my mum back to Ireland. She's Irish. And I took my mum back to Ireland to meet her, to go and see her mum because she wasn't well. And on our way home, I happened to go into a bookshop because we had some time to kill. And this book jumped out on me called You Can Heal Your Own Life by Louise Hay. And that was quite a pivotal moment in my life for making big changes. And that's part of the reason why I then decided not to go down the conventional road of treatment. I was told, obviously, my chances of any pregnancy were, quite slim anyway, because of the operation that I'd had during my pregnancy. And then I found myself pregnant again. And I then met a new midwife. I met her at the end of my pregnancy where I had the ovarian cancer, and she was really supportive of me about, believing in myself. And then when I got pregnant with my eldest son, she supported me through not going down that pathway of high risk intervention, scary, fear mongering, and all of that. And I then decided that I wanted to become a midwife and give birth back to women because that's what she gave me. Her name is Julia Bennett, and she's such a beautiful soul. She's retired now, but she was a midwife for eons in Northampton, and I'm still friends with her to this day. So I became a midwife to give birth back to women, and I've had quite an extensive collective career. I worked in Milton Keynes on the wards in the hospital. I did community midwifery for a long time. I then became an independent midwife. Concurrently with that, I worked part-time as a Sure Start midwife because one of my authentic needs is to be able to give the same service to those that couldn't afford to pay. So it was quite important to me. And I left doing that combination of independent midwifery and helping those that were less fortunate of ourselves. I then became pregnant with my youngest daughter, Honey, and so decided to go back into the NHS to be the main provider of the household. And that's what I did. I went back in. Honey's now 17. So probably 18 years ago, I went full-time back into the NHS, and again, I was a labour ward coordinator, and I loved that role. I think I was pretty efficient at it because my main ethos was about the woman. It was all about the woman's needs. I didn't care what the system really wanted. I'd buck against it a little bit to get what the woman needed. And I was still very aware of the fear generation. And then I had wanted to live by the sea all my life, and there was a big project coming in from the government called Continuity of Carer and Knowing Your Own Midwife, and an ideal job came up for me down in the southwest, and I applied for it and got it, and we uprooted the 3 older children because they're like 35, 33 and 31. They stayed back in Northampton. And then myself, my husband, Honey and Rio came down here. And just to let you know, even Rio, I was 45 when I was pregnant with him. And so I had lots of risk factors surrounding that, like geriatric mother and da-da-da-da. And actually, I still went on and had a home birth. He weighed 11 pounds. I had a physiological 3rd stage. I didn't buy into the fear because I knew if I bought into the fear, I wouldn't be able to birth. So I came down here, and the project for continuity care and know your own midwife, the government kind of put it on the back burner, and then COVID hit. And so the trajectory of where I thought my beautiful career was going kind of went. And as we know, COVID is quite a controversial subject. People have varying views on it. I'm not here to discuss my thoughts and opinions on that, but I realised the challenges that presented meant that women were getting less choice, and I was becoming more and more unhappy in my career. And I decided, through many reasons why, some really personal, but some to do with the environment I was working in, predominantly the environment I was working in was making me very unwell, unhappy. I decided that I was going to leave. I originally set up Birth From Within and was going to try and run it concurrently with my job, and kind of like had a bit of an exit plan, which at this point I am going to plug your exit plan, David. Brilliant idea. If I'd have
Thank you.
known it, I would have used it. Unfortunately, I didn't have that. I kind of in my head had an exit plan, which was going to be set up my classes, do that concurrently alongside, reduce my hours, increase the business, and life would be rosy and good. But it didn't work out like that, and I left. So I kind of went from earning a relatively decent wage to absolutely nothing. And that's kind of, where the story picks up about me understanding the importance of following your true, authentic self. And, that's kind of where I am with it all, really. I spent a year healing because I think vicarious trauma within big systems like the NHS and stuff like that is quite big. The job itself has lots of trauma attached to it, which people don't recognise. I know I was extremely traumatized. I've had all sorts of therapies. My mental health wasn't the best. So I think I've spent a year healing, spending all my savings, thinking that my business would then flurry. And then I kind of got to Christmas and realised I had no savings left. I have a business. And that's when I realised that I was a virgin at business and an expert in vaginas. And so I have to say that since probably January, February time, I then have really started to focus on my business. And now I'm feeling the shift and the change and the recognition and the opportunities that are coming through now. But that's kind of a brief synopsis of how I presented and where I am today.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And wow, what a story to have as your backstory. And thank you for sharing it. And I'm sure some of it was pretty traumatic. And I know we've kind of talked off camera, so I
Yeah.
know there's more to it. But it's clear that you've reached a really good place. And I think from what you've said, since you started really focusing on the business, started showing up, consistency that I've seen through your socials, it pops up every now and then, you're going live. So I know that you're working really hard on it. And I know also that it will pay off with all the consistency that you have.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel even in the last sort of couple of months, things are feeling lighter, and I feel like I'm knowing more people, meeting more people, connecting more with people. As you know, I run support groups, and I do those at the Devon Clinic, which Chris Fleet runs, which is kind of how we connected, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And one of the things that we did recently was the Three Peaks Challenge. That was obviously to raise some really amazing funding for Chris's clinics that he runs, the Devon Clinic, because it is a charity and it does need financial support. So I embarked on that with him because I run my groups there, and it was an amazing adventure. It was a challenge. I mean, it's called the Three Ps Challenge. A bit like me running a business. I didn't really realise it was going to be such a challenge. I don't know if you've seen the video of Chris and I at the top of the peak, the third peak.
Yeah, I have seen some of it. The general feeling that I'm getting from those that I know who've done the challenge is that it really was quite a challenge for
Yeah.
everybody. But how amazing that you've done it and you got through it. just
Yeah.
like you've got through, I guess, the rest of the challenges that you've had leading up to this point.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things it did kind of, as we came up to the third summit, Chris and I, because 5 people had sort of dropped out on the sort of the first and second peaks. So it was just like Chris and I then. The 5 guys had like rushed on ahead, and, one of them was running it. Craig, he's a PT
Craig,
trainer.
yeah,
He, yeah, Craig, yes, he ran it. So it was Chris and I that were coming up on the final peak, and it just started to rain, and we were like, oh, it's a little bit rainy, we're going to get wet. But as we went over the peak, it was absolutely blizzards. We could not see anything. We finally managed to find the summit bit where you're supposed to have your photograph taken for proof. And that's the little video, I think, we couldn't get our way, we couldn't find our way off. And eventually Chris sort of went, oh, there's a mound of stones here. That generally means that there's a pathway here. Well, yeah, it was a kind of a pathway, but it certainly wasn't a pathway that was trampled by 3,000 people a day. Anyway, we headed down this pathway, and it was pouring with rain, and we would get soaked. I think at one point we had to abseil down a waterfall. There was a cave. Honestly, it was just, we walked 29 miles instead of 26, but we did it. And what that demonstrated to me is personally for me, and I'm sure Chris will speak the same of himself, is the sheer grit and determination and strength to get through. And I think from running a business point of view, I think that's kind of where you need strength, grit and determination. And so I really took that lesson and started applying that into going, okay, just keep going, Tess, just keep showing up, just keep having the grit, the determination and the strength, and all will be well. I mean, Chris did keep saying, all paths lead to somewhere. And I was like, well, first of all, it's not really a path. And second of all, I know all paths lead to somewhere, but where is this particular one going? When we found civilization, it was in the face of a squirrel hunter, which we found quite ironic in the end, but we got there.
you
So
got
yeah,
there, you did it, you made the challenge, and
yeah,
you took a path. And I love that actually, because there is an analogy around if you're stuck, whatever it is, you have to take steps forward to get somewhere. Because if you're not moving forward, you're not going anywhere. And even if it is traversing down a waterfall, a path untrodden, you are going somewhere. And
yeah,
that is absolutely key. Like I said, there is certainly analogies with the business there. I want to take you back to those early days, earlier on. And you said that you were the main provider in your household.
yes.
How did that feel when you had all of that pressure? And how did your husband feel about that?
So my first 3 older children are with my ex, Julian. So when we split up, that's when I kind of was like, right, okay, this is me. I have to be independent. And obviously Midwifery gave me that, and I bought my own house. So when I met my current husband, 21 years ago, so it's quite a long time, I was already quite established in my own. And I suppose like anybody, when you have a backdrop of a story, you try to keep I certainly wasn't going to be left in the vulnerable position I was left in last time. So everything was sort of set up. So he kind of came into the family home, and it was always that I was quite independent. I was the main, I earned my money, this. And then as as we've gone on in our relationship and evolved, I have just always felt that I needed to be the main breadwinner. Do you know what I mean? And it was just, I felt that pressure sometimes quite overbearing. I have to admit, it was quite challenging. And especially when you're looking around roles and responsibilities in the modern world. I think one of the things that I quite often say is that the suffragettes didn't throw themselves under the horse for the vote. That was what became the focal point. What they wanted was women to be seen as equal. And I think what happened when all of that shift came on is that women, they're still not seen as equal in many aspects of the working environment, but they took on this work role as well as doing all the household chores still. So a lot of women are working really hard and still doing the washing, cooking, cleaning, tidying, and that balance can sometimes still be a little bit, I think it's lessening and, evening out a bit. But when you're talking 20 years ago, it's only the last few years that maybe those balances are coming a bit more into alignment. So it was hard. I didn't sit still. I was quite a trooper, but I had a really kind, loving, supportive husband who supported me in what I was doing. So if I wasn't there for the kids, he certainly was. And to me, that was a really important aspect. I think when it became challenging more challenging was when I became really unhappy in my job, when I was going into work every day, like having to sit in my car and meditate to get through the door because it was so unbearable. Then it was really difficult because I was really torn with wanting to do what I wanted to do, knowing that the income wouldn't be in balance with what we were used to. But actually, my husband now, he's stepped up to the plate. He's got 2 jobs. He's working really, really hard. Part of me wishes I'd done it 5-10 years earlier. But when you're used to having an income coming in that's a stable, steady income, it's quite a leap of faith to go, I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know if it's going to be, I believe in it, but I don't know if the rest of the world is going to believe in me. And that's a real challenge, especially when you've had your confidence eroded because you've been going into an environment that's not been conducive to your authenticity. So it erodes your emotional well-being. So there was a lot of stuff going on, and that was for a good few years, It wasn't an easy journey, but I have to say, since leaving and having that year, I feel like I'm coming back into myself now. I feel like my confidence is returning. I feel that I'm much more relaxed. I feel like women are still the focus of everything that I say and do. And I'm ignoring the backdrop noises of people's negativity because it doesn't fit into my arena anymore. It's like, that's not who people make assumptions of who they think you are. And I've got to the point where I have to say to myself, what other people think of you, Tess, is none of your business. What you think of yourself is the most important thing. And so it's been a big work on myself again, actually quite mirroring the breakup of my, long-term relationship with my father of the 3 older children. It has been quite reflective of the same emotions involved, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I recognize some of that in myself as well. So I completely understand that. And I think it's really good to hear all of what you've said around the struggles you've had, about the understanding that people can be negative, but you have to step out of that and understand that actually this is for you. Whatever they think, whatever they say, whatever they do is going to make no difference other than make you feel worse. So if you can block that out, which can be really tricky, and keep moving forward, then you're in a really good place and it's much happier. I want to come on to birth from within in a minute, but I think it's really important that we just touch as well on what you've said around being so unhappy in a job that you've had to sit in the car to meditate. Because I know that so many people are stuck. They don't know quite the steps to take to be able to go from that place of being unhappy to where you have got to. And I know that's a journey, and I know it takes time, and it takes real guts to do it as well. And you talked about the finances and all of that. Just, if you don't mind, share with us what it felt like to be so unhappy in that job, and then how much difference it's made now you don't have to sit in the car to meditate before you go to your office or your home office.
Oh, this could evoke up a few emotions.
Talk only of what you're comfortable with,
Oh,
obviously.
no, to be fair, David, you have to just be your true, authentic self, whether that's full of tears and emotions and wobbles. That's, you know, I'm not going to lie, I was suicidal. So that's quite a big thing to put out there. Yeah, I that was probably the hardest part for my family to watch, without a doubt. Sorry, give me a second. No, honestly, I love emotions. I love them whatever they are. Do you know what I mean? Sort of, I did find it at work at the time really difficult, because if I ever got really emotional over aspects because I was being targeted, or that's how it felt for me, over trivia and silly, and I wasn't really supported with stuff. And so if I did, there was this real contrast of me where I would stand up and sort of like take accountability for my stuff, but then give them back their stuff. And when I gave them back their stuff, they didn't quite know how to deal with it, because I will always own my own stuff. Whenever there's a situation, we all have a role to play in it. And quite often, I mean, I've got written reports of things that managers have said about me, and it would blow your head away. It's not even worth going into. So I was, mentally broken. I weighed 8 stone, which I must have looked like a little macerated, scrawny person. It was hard for my family to watch me in that place. My husband didn't really know what to do. I had support. If you go to your GP, they give you like tablets and things, don't they? Because they just want to fix the problem and not the solution. They don't want to fix the problem. They just want to like put a sticky plaster over it. And I went to TalkWorks, but I met a brilliant woman there at TalkWorks, but it was still very limited as to what they could offer. So it's like 12 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever. So most of the work that I've done to retrieve myself out of that dark hole has been a lot of self-work. But I would say fundamentally the thing that took me out of that really dark place was going, I can't do this anymore. I will end up either dead or, I think if I'd have stayed where I was, I don't think I would have carried on, because it was at that point where it was like, I'm more important than the job. And so I knew in a way that I didn't have a choice. I think the financial thing was the thing that kept me thinking I had to keep going. But actually, coming from earning quite a decent wage, because obviously I was like a top band 7, I was quite, I wasn't like, been many years in this job, being a labour coordinator previously. I had a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And I had quite a nice, comfortable income coming in on a regular basis, to kind of not having any income coming in and just living off my savings. I think you just cut your cloth accordingly. And you can't measure happiness in monetary terms. One of the decisions we decided to do was to downsize our house, because when we moved down here, we bought quite a big house, thinking that, my older children would come down and stay regularly. But actually, we had this massive house where our gas bills were like £900 a month in the depths of winter. And it was like, well, it doesn't make any sense. Let's downsize the house. The rest of that material stuff, I came into this world naked. I'm going out naked. They're only objects. And I think I had to just completely change my mindset on so many things that I thought was really important. And actually, you can't buy happiness. Happiness comes from being your true, authentic self. And that's kind of where I got to, and now I'm being my true, authentic self. Everything seems to be settling down and sorting itself out. I'm not in financial abundance at any means at the moment, but I'm present for my children. I'm present for my husband. I have met some amazing people since I've started networking, people like yourself and Chris and all the people that I did the walk with. I go swimming every day, and I've met some beautiful people that I go swimming with. I've got a really amazing network of friends around me. So by making that transition, actually, my life has opened up immensely, not just from a business point of view, but also just from allowing me to be who I am and not it be squashed because I think outside of a box, or I'm a little bit more creative, or, I I don't follow the rules as much as I should. You know, if a woman wanted a 2-hour appointment with me, I would give her a 2-hour appointment because it's her needs, not mine. But I was constantly told, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do this. And so, you know, it is about, I think ultimately when we are unhappy, we have to really have a look at what's going on in our direct, are we being our true authentic self? And if not, step into that power and be it.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Sorry about the tears.
Moving on to happier times and the amazing transition that you have now made from where you were. As you say, you are an expert in vaginas and a virgin in business, which is how you introduced yourself to me on LinkedIn, which is still one of the absolute best and my most favorite introduction to anyone, I think, ever, which I love. As you know, coming from a healthcare background, I have no problem talking about any of this. So it's always nice to have that introduction. And I think I shared with you that I do actually have someone in my phone called a vagina warrior who was a specialist in gynae oncology who I worked with many years ago. So yeah, it always makes me laugh. So tell me now then, what is Birth from Within and how are you helping mothers and expectant mothers with that?
So I provide antenatal education and classes, workshops. So I can do 6-week courses. The aim of providing 3 variants on providing the same level of education is based on talking to parents about what they could do, and how they could, what would meet their needs. For some people, the 6-week course is about meeting other parents as well as the education and the learning. I do a 2 half-day workshops, and again, that's based around meeting other parents. It's quite intense, but the fact that it's run over 2 days means that there is a bit of a break, and then people can go away, have a sleep, and come back the next day and go, right, I want to talk about this and that and the other. And then I do a 1-day workshop, and that's for people with real constraints on time, or those people that may be getting towards the end of their pregnancy and thinking, I haven't had any input educational wise, and I'd really like to do that. I offer support groups in the evenings, which I do a mum's space group that's just running the day on a weekly day. Whether you're pregnant or just had a baby, you can come along to that. And it's quite nice mixing up the pregnancies with the mums, because pregnant mums are so willing to learn and new mums are so willing to share, and it's so beautiful. And then when a pregnant mum in the group then it goes on and has a baby, it's like a real celebratory time. So it's really nice, and they're quite small groups, they're quite intimate, but they're really, I mean, I just love the feel of them. I do a dad's group. That's been a bit harder to take off the ground, I have to admit. I'm really trying to push getting dads to come along and talk about. And again, it may be that they're a dad to be, because I think one of the things that I found throughout my career is men got pushed into the birthing arena and they're like that. And they really find it hard to know what their role is. And so I do, like in my classes, I talk a lot about what the male's role is, but I do in the group, I want for men to come in and go, because I feel that men connect differently with pregnancy than women. So when we become pregnant, it consumes us because we have this whole new life growing inside of us. It's tiring, exhausting, emotional, hormones. We feel sick. There's so much going on. And then a man looks at us and we look exactly the same. And it's really hard for them to grasp the concept of, they're excited that they're going to be a dad, but their role is like, well, what do we do? What does that mean for us? So I do a group to look and explore around that, and getting men to talk about those men that have had babies as well as those that are about to have a baby. And again, it's about that support aspect. I do a baby loss group, which I think is really important because I think there isn't very much support. It's a subject people don't like talking and sharing about. In my mum's space group, there was a mum there whose baby unfortunately only lived for 16 hours. But she was so grateful for the group because she was able to come and share. She carried on coming after her baby had passed and died. But the group it really helped them understand how it must feel for a woman to have experienced a baby loss. And so she comes to the group. She's happily pregnant again. Obviously, that's having quite an impact on her emotional well-being, but she's supported and nurtured and held by lots of people, so it's been phenomenal. And I think even if one person comes away from that journey feeling supported and held and listened to, then it was worth holding that group for a whole year. I do a birth trauma group. It's, again, a subject people don't want to talk about. I think women just kind of, they go into this birth arena with so many expectations of how they want it to be, and then they end up down this pathway of intervention, and actually it leaves them quite disempowered. So again, it's a peer support group for women to come and open up about where they're at. And I also do a mental wellbeing group. So they run alternate days. So the baby loss and birth trauma run alternate Mondays. So one will be one Monday and the other will be the following Monday. The men's group and the mental wellbeing, they run on Thursdays. And they're both at the Devon Clinic. All of those groups are at the Devon Clinic. So yeah, I do that. Also doing birth keeping now. Now my pin is on its way out. I'm able to do birth keeping, like doula servicing. I didn't want to offer the midwifery service in there because I didn't want to come into my role is about supporting, loving, nurturing women. And so I want to use all my experience and my knowledge, everything that I do so brilliantly. I still want to put it forward to help and support women having their babies. And I would highly recommend women now to have a doula or a birth keeper at their birth, because the construct of care has changed so much. Having stepped out of the birth arena, I recognised that I wasn't a midwife anymore. I wasn't able to perform being a midwife. I had become an obstetric nurse, and that was so not what I wanted to be. And I look at a lot of midwives now and I see that they do that because of the fear that's in that birth arena with them. And so I want to carry on just, being with women and giving birth back to women, which is why I became a midwife. Now I'm becoming a birth keeper so I can give birth back to women.
It's so important that you use the skills that you have built upon from your early career and clearly what you wanted to do. And like so many others, you start something because you believe in it, you believe what it can offer, and you know that's what you want to do. And then as things change and evolve, we won't go into the NHS crisis, but it's not solely in the NHS. But people change, policies change, services change, and suddenly, as you say, you become something that you weren't before. So being able to do your own thing and offer the services and the support and the love that you wanted to give when you first started is full circle and so empowering to people to be able to do that. And I'm sure the women and the men that you help, and I love the fact you help fathers, is so important. I am a father. I understand how difficult that challenge can be to see someone that you love be pregnant, go through everything they go through, and it is a quagmire to try and understand what you should be doing.
Yeah, I think men are
So
left
I think
quite
that's really helpful.
powerless. I think men are left quite powerless in the birth arena. And for men, their role is quite a protective thing. And to be in this birth arena in a hospital where suddenly they are quite powerless, there's these rules and regulations that they're being told what to do, and they can't. And I see it on men's faces. Feel the anxiety when they come through the door. And there's such a
And I
brilliant
think when
role for
things
them to
go
have.
wrong, yeah, absolutely. And when things go wrong, men definitely struggle, I think, more. And I know that from my own experience. My ex-wife, when she had our second baby, it was an exceptionally traumatic birth that I won't go into because it's quite graphic, but it went from being a very joyous occasion to really a very scary occasion in a matter of moments.
Yeah.
And actually, I heard the story repeated on the Diary of a CEO this week of something similar. And it really it brought home and reminded me how difficult it can be. And actually, having a child is both of you, and everybody needs to be involved. And it's so important for the couple, for the child themselves to have that support. The services that you offer, are they online as well?
Yes, so my website is www.birthfromwithin.co.uk. So people can book on there. The groups that I offer and the classes you can also book on Eventbrite. So it's on there. I've got Instagram where so you know about my cards that I made, don't you? My beautiful
I was
cards.
going to come to your card. I was going to come to your cards, explain your cards, because I know we've talked about them, but I think it'd be really good for people to see them. And I know they can purchase them as well.
They can, yeah. And I do them. I pull a card every day on Instagram and have a little talk about how it means, what it is. So today I was talking about choices in care, and then two cards fell out, and it was families and music, and I kind of relate them in onto what I've been talking about because they're quite interesting actually. I'm quite amazed at how often the card links with what I'm talking about.
Can you pull a card for us here now?
Yeah,
Can you do us a live Insta type card posting while we're on
yeah.
this?
So there are four headings. So there's pregnancy, birth, lifestyle, and life changes. And so each of those segments have got 10 cards. And they're really useful, like to pull on a daily basis in your pregnancy. Because the fear in the birth arena is so immense now. Like everything is fear-based decision making. I wanted to give women a moment just to deepen that connection with joy and happiness and love and laughter, because one of the things that I'm very aware of is that we get a lot of babies that are small for growth. And actually, when a mum's running on fear, she releases cortisone, which inhibits the growth of a baby. And nobody talks about this. You know, we're talking about informed choice, but we should be talking about love and joy and happiness and creating this wonderful bubble that women present in their pregnancy and go through. If they're running on cortisone, they're not in the love bubble and they need to go in it. And so that's what these cards came from. I did them at 20 years ago, and this was my original one when they came with a card and a book. And then my daughter, when she was pregnant, went, "You need to revamp them, Mum. Get in the modern world. They need to be visually attractive, short, sharp, and sweet." So here we are. You can purchase both.
Like all,
You can get the deep and
I'd say,
meaningful ones or the short,
like all
sharp.
children, they love what we do.
Yeah. So interestingly, the card is birth. How funny is that? Like, because we're talking about birth, and then that's the one. And it just says, "Giving birth is a wondrous event and a great personal adventure. Prepare yourself, eat well, rest well, and empower yourself. Gather information and explore what resonates with you, what feels right for you. There is no right or wrong way to give birth, just birth. You are a phenomenal woman who has nurtured your beautiful baby through your pregnancy. Have faith in your abilities to bring your child safely into the world." And then the birth affirmation is, "I have faith in my abilities to birth. I am strong. Relax. I've got this." And that for me is quite relevant for my business. So when I do my cards, I quite often link where I am in, because I look at my business as being a bit like a pregnancy now. So I've travelled down the fallopian tube. I've embedded. I'm now growing the pregnancy. I think I might be out of the first trimester now. So the sickness has subsided. I'm getting a bit more energy and I'm preparing for my birth.
I have never heard a business defined as pregnancy and the fallopian tubes, embedding, but I think you've hit something really good there. And we have to explore this further at some point. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I love it. What a great analogy. And I'm glad that you are now out of the first trimester. And that's where all the joy happens and the fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's where you can actually relax a little bit and enjoy being pregnant. You look pregnant, you emit this amazing energy that people are drawn to. You know, you feel your baby moving. You know, if you look after yourself and really eat well, like all the things that's one of the things that I do with all my classes. I talk predominantly about looking after yourself, eating well. If you go along any path within the medical world, it will always be a tablet first. Well, there's lots of things you can do before tablets are given. Like if you change your diet and you change your lifestyle and you hydrate well with water and things like that, there's so much more you can do to keep yourself fit and healthy. And that doesn't just include your physical well-being, but your emotional well-being as well. And I also have a real belief that when women are pregnant, it is the biggest trajectory for them to go on and change their life. And if we can get those women that are at a crossroads in their life and guide them into a different trajectory of, this is an amazing time, you can go on and do anything, we get completely different outcomes. A couple of the women that have come to my group, both of them have shared their pregnancies within the group. One of them has gone back to uni. That's her change. She decided after having a baby, feeling empowered and thinking she can achieve anything. She's now gone back to uni and she wants to become a teacher. So that's amazing. She's sorted all that out and she's just completed her first year, which is brilliant. And another one, Hannah Meadows, who does mumfulness. She'd be a good person for you to interview. She came to my group and said, I've got this idea that I would really like to sort of explore. So she came and done mindfulness in my sessions, and now she's set up her own little business. And I'm so proud of her and Christelle and the others that come to the group, and what they've achieved and how becoming a mum has shown them that they can. They've created a miracle. If we can create a miracle inside of our bodies and birth it, we can do anything. There are no bounds. We are magnificent beings, And if we have the right support and love and nurture around us with our family and our partners and our friends, the world is just a beautiful oyster for us, And that's kind of what I hope within a lot of my workshops and things, the message that I get over to women is to empower them and to believe in their power and to really connect, but also with the men as well. Also about what their role is within all of this. They're not just a passive bystander on this journey. It can be really empowering and energizing for them, and it can really connect into their female energy and bring the softer side out in a lot of men, I really want to take on that responsibility. Historically, when the baby was born, men went out and got drunk, didn't they? Wet the baby's head. I want to change that sort of thought about it. I want them to be able to go, no, I'm a birth keeper here, and I'm a keeper of safety net around my family. So, yeah.
It's important for the child as well to have that male point of view as well.
Definitely. There's loads of evidence that suggests that having a male present, and actually present, not just physically there, but present, as in emotionally present, makes a massive difference onto the emotional well-being and development of a baby. It's not just a woman's job. We're brilliant at it, but it is a family unit job. And I want that coerciveness to come back as a unit together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so vital. And a father figure as a whole. And again, the podcast I was listening to with Stephen Bartlett, Director of CEO this week, talks about that, and actually the father figure being so important, whether that is a biological father or a stepfather, just a father figure and the ability that they have to change and help in a child's life. I know that's not
Yeah.
always the case, and that's really sad, but
Yeah.
it is so important. Do you do your cards for dads as well?
I do my card. These cards are really universal. My next project, I've got a couple of little projects on the thing. One of them is to do parenting cards on the same trajectory as these. I've started them. I've started the creative connection with it. The other thing that I've started with a really good friend of mine is we're doing the story behind the silence. And that's just a new little project that's coming out about, again, Dean, my friend, who wants to do this big project, and I'm supporting him doing it. He was an adopted child and the impact that had on him. So that was his trajectory of going off and wanting to get these people talking about their stories. And he's the real strong male element in it, because he said, Growing up, he wasn't allowed to talk about his emotions, and it wasn't until he had counselling that made a massive difference to his well-being. And so he wants to get men talking as well as women talking, and people sharing their stories and saying it's okay to share these stories. And so that's kind of like a little project that we're starting up together to get people to talk about their stories, but that's in and around the mental well-being and, you know, improving people. It's a bigger project than what I'm doing with Birth From Within, but there's a lot of similarities there, which is why we're working together on it. But it is so important that as humans, whether you are male or female, you feel heard, listened and held. And that's predominantly what Birth From Within is about, but that's also what the story behind the silence is going to be about. Dean would be another great guy for you to have on here, because he actually owns a garage and he's kind of done a full circle going, no, I want to do this.
It sounds so exciting what you've got coming up. And I think you are offering such a valuable service to parents outside of the normal structure and constraints of an NHS that's really suffering, and actually a private system that doesn't particularly work in maternity as a whole.
Yeah,
So I think what you're doing is really fantastic.
thank you.
Let's just end. Can you give my viewers and my listeners your piece of advice that you would give to someone who is stuck in that car, so scared about going into work, so sad? What advice would you give to them to help them move forward?
First of all, I would say get out. If it doesn't make your heart sing, it's not the right thing. And I would use that as an ethos of anything that you're in life now. Life is about making your heart sing, because when your heart becomes heavy, the world becomes heavy around you. So if it is something, if you're going in and you're thinking, I hate this job and I hate being here and this is what I really want to do, then do it. Do it. Like I said, if I had had your exit plan thing, it may have been a bit of an easier journey for me. So I would recommend definitely go and have a read of that. I also think that if you are going to run, if it's start up your own business, then go and network straight away. Like I've left that quite a long time. So get out there, get your networking done, because there's lots of people that are out there that are wanting to help and support you. And if you have an exit plan and you've got some financial support that could enable you to get the right advice and guidance, it would make your life a lot easier. I clearly don't like making my life that easy. And I've done it a long, hard way. But do you know what? I needed to heal, I think, more than anything. I needed that time to heal. And I think that had I done it a year ago, I would have been carrying energies along with me that weren't conducive to the positive, happy, joyous things that I want to bring to the people that I meet. And I didn't want to be in a place where I was in resistance for sort of big organisations. What I want to do is to say, I'm here if this is something that you feel. As it's a CIC, I'm able to start applying now for funding so that some of the courses and things are subsidised, which will help those that aren't able to afford the full pricing to get some support towards the classes as well. So, I hadn't thought of that a year ago. It's only since I started networking, and Kim Thornton does a little business course that's really great. It gives you really great ideas and things like that. So I am where I am, and I don't regret any part of the journey, because it's got me where I am today, and that needs celebrating,
Absolutely, it does. And thank you, Tess. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being so open and honest. I really, really appreciate it. And I know that people will be so pleased to hear your journey and your story. I wish you all the very best for everything you're doing in the future. And I know we will work together down the line as well. Thank you so much, Tess. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on and giving me this safe space to be able to go, ta-da.
Absolute pleasure. You are welcome back anytime. And let's see if we can put in another interview when you are in the third trimester of your business.
Yes, let's do that. Yeah. And then when I've given birth. I can tell you how traumatic it was. It won't be. If I can push out an 11-pound baby at home, I think I can do anything.
And I think on that, we shall end. Thank you so much, Tess. I really appreciate it.
Take care. All the
Take
best.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye.